Hello, investors and traders, and welcome to the weekly market report. I'm AJ Monte, and we are within the 2-minute mark of the close of the market on this Friday, November 22nd. Welcome, everyone. This is a daily candle chart of DIA, which is the Dow Jones Industrial Average ETF. And as you can see here, we hit my downside target. I had 2 downside targets in the row. This was last week's target. We did hit that, and we bounced right from it. Now, notice what's happening as we're coming into the final seconds here. We have a high that is known as a resistance right there. Put a little R there for you for resistance. And look at the long stretch of green that we have coming into the close today. That drop in volume is telling us that the buyers are getting tired. I use that as a leading indicator. A lot of people forget to look at the volume. I do not. And so what I believe we're going to see next week is a pullback from that high. We might go just a little bit higher to test it, but I think it'll be on lower volume down here. And then I think we're going to retrace at least 50% of what we had gained over the last 4 days. So I'm going to that level. My downside target is 437.55. We're more or less stuck in a range here, which is absolute paradise for traders, swing traders especially, who trade options. And so that's my downside target for DIA. Looking at IWM, we also hit that downside target. I had 2 successive targets in a row to the downside. Same story. You can see here we have a big green candle, but look at the drop in volume right there. Here's your resistance, a little bit higher on IWM. And so we could go just a tad because of that momentum coming into a shortened trading week. And then I'm going to keep the same angle as we have here, a little bit more extreme to the downside. And here we go into the close. There's the closing bell. And again, that downside target for IWM is going to be 233.20. Moving on to the Qs. While the markets were screaming higher, the Qs really did a lot of nothing today. And we have these very small body candles. Let me magnify that. That is a hanging man right there, long shadow underneath. Today we have a half signal. A half signal is when you have a lower high but a higher low. A full pivot would be a lower high and a lower low. I think we will see that next week, especially with Thanksgiving being on Thursday. The shortened trading week, we tend to have lighter volume, and the markets are easier to push around when the volume is thin like that. So the downside target on Qs still in place at 492.79. Now moving on to SPY, which is the S&P 500 ETF. That downside target is not yet hit. We did fill the gap here. Remember my gap fill rules. 80% of the time gaps fill. Well, there you go. It filled. Now, what happens after gaps fill? Well, most of the time, 80% of the time, in fact, prices tend to reverse. Now, what's happened here is now that the upside gap is filled, we now have a downside gap that is most likely going to act as a price magnet to the downside. If you're brand new to our channel, think of this as your weekly technical analysis vitamin. Each and every week, I try to give you some little tidbit that you could learn to help you become a better trader and more or less put the odds in your favor. We're having a great time. This is an absolute trading paradise, no doubt about that. In fact, today we took in $11 per share of credits just on 2 positions in FDX and on Restoration Hardware. We put that trade out between 3:30 and 3:45 so our traders can get that last trade in for the week. And so that is a great thing when you can pull money from the market to pay for other positions. Now, next week, we're going to start talking about the Thanksgiving short week, of course, but the week after that, we're going to be taking in a lot of credits for the option traders, especially as we roll our positions. So if you want to learn more about how to trade options or how to read the charts, come on over to Sticky Trades. You could be a fly in the wall and sign up for our free membership for 15 days. You could just soak it all in. We don't require any kind of payment or credit cards. We don't play that game with people. I've said that so many times. We want to build your trust. And in order to do that, you have to watch what we're doing, listen to how we're talking to our members, and even get the testimonials from some of the members on these webinars of how great they're doing in this market. Again, taking money from the market to pay for positions is how we trade. So again, SPY downside target still in place down there. Let me let that little data box pop up one more time at 581.22. Now let's go to the VIX, because this one has two gaps as well. We have a gap to the upside right here that I've guaranteed everyone that will fill, because the VIX is an oscillating index. It's not a stock. But we also have that gap down below. I'm going to give you a guarantee on that one too. In fact, I think the downside gap could very well fill before the upside gap does. And once we fill that gap, remember what I say, 80% of the time on stocks, 100% of the time on the VIX. Once that fills, we'll probably get the bounce to the gap over here, which once it gets to that level, the gap would be filled, and then we might see a little bit of a pullback from that point. So I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. The VIX is a great leading indicator for helping the option traders especially get ahead of the price action. So short-term target is going to be that gap above. It's $20.20. The horizontal line right there will give you the signal when that one fills as well. Now, there's a lot of craziness going on. I'm going to talk a little bit about Bitcoin. I don't do that often, but I want to show you what's going on here. We hit the $100,000 magic number in Bitcoin today. Look at that vertical move on Bitcoin. That's the biggest green candle that Bitcoin has seen since its creation. Now, they're all striving for that $100,000 mark. What could possibly happen after that? Well, I'll tell you what could happen. Profit taking. We have a big, long stretch of green here. Look at that volume. Now, I'm keeping a downside target on Bitcoin. I know it sounds extreme, but that's 86,600. I posted that on my X page. You can follow along. That is a target that I'm going to stand by, because you have a lot of people that are trading the cryptocurrency, and they're now introducing options on Bitcoin next week. And so once that happens, the volatility on Bitcoin is going to accelerate. And what happens actually is Bitcoin itself, because of the volatility, is eliminating the digital currency from the discussion of it being a possible or viable currency for us. You cannot have a currency that our economy is depending on having this kind of volatility. You're going to get in your car to go buy a loaf of bread. By the time you get to the store, Bitcoin is down $20,000, and the cost of bread is going to cost you $20 instead of the current price. And talk about inflation, you cannot have an unstable currency such as this being used as a replacement for the US dollar. So they're going to have to find something else out. I'm not telling you not to get into Bitcoin, or I'm not telling you to sell it right now, but I'm just telling you that the argument for it being a replacement for the dollar is basically right out the window. And this last few weeks is the absolute reason why. Now, if you're following along, you'll know that I have a 7-point trading checklist that I put out to our members. I look at the candle, right? Remember, I just talked about a hanging man, and I look at the volume. We analyze the volume. I look at the divergences from the moving average. It's called the rubber band effect. We talked about gaps already, the 80-20 rule for filling gaps. I look at the oscillators, the stochastic, and my favorite is the CCI. Once in a while, like I did last week, I talk about role reversal. Why is that important? Because support, once broken, turns to resistance, and vice versa. Once resistance is broken, it reverts back to support. Learning how to read the charts like that, again, puts the odds in your favor. Look what happened with Target this week, down 25%. Now, there's a lot more to this stock than what we're just looking at here on the chart. Target's inventories are way up. Their profit margins are way down. They are not getting the consumers buying product. This is a retail recession is what we're looking at right here. Now, next week, Black Friday is considered to be an economic indicator. And then the following Cyber Tuesday Tuesday is also something that traders are going to be watching. Right now, Target has given us more or less the insight that we are in a recession. The buyers or the consumers are on strike, more or less. They don't have the dollars, so they cut back on their buying. Keep an eye on that. Now, talking about Bitcoin, we'll take a look at MSTR. This is MicroStrategy Inc. They have $30 billion worth of Bitcoin. What they do, they sold the stock, bought Bitcoin, and MSTR has a market cap now of roughly $100 billion. They have negative earnings, and on top of it, they're $4 billion in debt. This came out from Long Investor on X. He's not missing a single thing. This is pure insanity. Now, this is the chart that we had yesterday, and our option traders, our VIPs especially, got into this when it was trading up at the higher levels. We put on a put spread, which is known as a negative delta position. Now, I will be featuring this chart, except I'll be looking at the monthly chart next Tuesday on Quick Charts. So I have a 3-minute video going out through Zero Hedge. So make sure you pick that one up. And feel free to add your comments to the Zero Hedge article as well, because I believe that MSTR, that some are calling a Ponzi scheme, I'm not going to go that far, but this is a super high risk position, and our traders are going to make money on the way down. Now, I have a target way down here, right around the 225 level, and I do believe that will hit. So again, stay tuned for next Tuesday's Quick Chart. It's the newest of the free services that we put out. And if you go to the top right corner of our YouTube page, you'll see that little bell right there. If you click on that, you will get my video. Here we go now. Here's a little secret. You will be notified that that video is published 15 minutes before it actually goes out to 100 million people. Connect the dots. I'm not trying to create a meme trade here at all, but you want to be first in line when you get news like this, because there are a lot of people that do react to the news. So that will be going out Tuesday morning before the market is open. So stay tuned for that. Just hit that notification bell and you won't miss a single thing. Last week we put out the NVIDIA chart, and our option traders made money on that as well. So we're having a really good time, as I mentioned before. Now, we talk about craziness in the market. Well, there's some things coming out here with AI. This just came out yesterday, that there was a big oops moment where AI basically deleted imported data from the New York Times in a legal case that they're working on. And AI just took it upon itself, the thinking machine that we've now created here, and decided to just delete those files. Lots of hours put into building those files, and in the blink of an eye, it's gone. This is not going to help the argument for AI taking over the world, that's for sure. This is a big, big problem, and I don't think it's going to be the last of it. Talk about insanity. This is actually a true story, folks. I am not kidding you. I mean, this is pure insanity. A crypto trader having way, way too much money literally bought a banana duct taped to the wall at Sotheby's in an auction for $6.2 million. This is a real story. Look it up. Talk about insanity. This is what we have coming into the market. They're going to spend $6.2 million at an art auction for a banana that's going to rot on the wall. And then they're going to go look at vertical stocks that have been going parabolic for the last months and go buy those stocks too, thinking there's no risk. The world has absolutely lost its mind. Now, Warren Buffett didn't lose his mind, because look what's happening here. I'm going to spend about a minute on this chart. This is the cash that Warren Buffett and Berkshire Hathaway has built up. It's the largest cash reserve that they've had in decades. And I want you to notice something. Right before the crash, the dot-com crash, look at how Warren Buffett built up the cash reserves. Why do they do that right before crashes? Here's right before the crash of 2008. Massive cash, right? They see the writing on the wall, and they want to have cash available, because cash in the down market is opportunity. So what happens while the markets are falling, they are starting to invest some of that cash, And then when they're all back in, it's usually at a bottom, and then they'll start to make money. Look what's happening right now. They are in record cash. You think something's going to happen? Well, I do. And I've been saying that. I have told people that the eventual crash, that is going to be shocking. I'm going to end on this next slide, and here's why. You may have seen what's going on. If not, get your head out of the sand, because we are on the brink of World War III. Right? Russia has already launched their newest weapons, hypersonic missiles that cannot be stopped. Thank God they were not armed with nuclear warheads. But I do believe that, and I'm not going to go too far down this road because I don't want YouTube to block me. When I say shocking, I think we are getting close. I have always thought it was the military shock and awe that would take place that would ultimately stun the markets to the lower levels. But folks, I'm asking you to pray for peace and keep your head on a swivel. Protect yourself, protect your assets, protect your family, and prepare, because the warmongers want us in a war. You could see it. You cannot avoid it. They are escalating this war, and they keep poking the big bear in the eye with Putin, basically with his back against the wall. He's going to have to take action. He's already said he would. He cannot back down from that. And I do believe that they're going to start setting their sights on military bases in the region. And there's even talk of Russia eyeing the military bases in Poland. So keep an eye on this. They want a war. They want a war. War is profitable. Unfortunately, that's the fact. And I do believe that there's going to be an event that will take place that will eventually jolt the markets lower. And so stay tuned to Sticky Trade. Stay tuned. Keep your eye on the charts. Make sure you're following us on YouTube. And please continue to like and share. And we love your comments, by the way. Your comments, your questions, your ticker symbols. We love it. Stay tuned, and I will stick by your side and continue to deliver this content for you as a value add. So have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you next week. So long.